Hello, YouTube. I know today I was gonna do my review of Next Avengers. However, um, I had to get up early for work today, and when I got home, when I got home, I was just exhausted. I didn't feel like rewatching it and going through the whole thing, so I decided to push it to tomorrow. Um, so instead, I will be talking about and reviewing Hulk versus Wolverine. This is another one of the. This was actually a movie that was released together. It was released as one. It was called. It's called Hulk versus. You have two movies. You have two movies in one. In released as one package. So it was Hulk versus Wolverine and Hulk versus Thor. The Hulk versus Thor. I will rewatch and I will review it a little later. However, for now, I'm just gonna do Hulk versus Wolverine. Um, just so I can talk about each one um, individually. So Hulk versus Wolverine is um, this movie is not only a masterpiece, but um, it is also probably it is also the truest um, thing to the source material that Marvel Animation has ever done. Literally, like it's dead on. Um, so the movie opens with um, the the movie opens with the Hulk and Wolverine fighting each other. Um, Wolverine's, the movie opens with Wolverine's catchphrase, "I'm the best there is at what I do, but what I do isn't very nice." And then um, Wolverine is putting back his dislocated shoulder, um, and then and screaming at the top of his lungs, and then we get um, and then the Hulk shows up, and then the movie jumps to I think it's like 10 minutes earlier, and it shows you um, and I think the movie takes place in Canada, if I remember correctly. I think it's on the Canadian border, and um, Wolverine has been hired. This is pre X-Men Wolverine. So if you're familiar with if you're a comic book fan, obviously you don't need to know this. So what I'm about to say, I'm addressing purely any non-comic book fans who may be watching this. One of um, Wolverine first appeared in Hulk 180. And then his first full appearance is 181. A lot of people will say that Hulk 181 is his first appearance, and while yes, they are um, sort of correct, his first appearance is 180 because of the um, because there's a tiny panel at the end of the issue where he shows up, and then Hulk 181 and then Hulk 181 obviously picks up where 180 left off. Um so 181 is his first full appearance, like he's in it like throughout the book. um so um so we get to a scene. um so it jumps to a scene where we see Wolverine on a hell we we see Wolverine arriving on a helicopter, and then we see General Ross, and then he comes out and he starts talking with General Thunderbolt Ross, and um, Wolverine has been hired Wolverine has basically been hired to go kill the Hulk, which which again was one of his very first assignments. It was it was when it was what he was it was what his first appearance in Hulk 181 was about. Was He was assigned to go kill the Hulk. So um so um so Wolverine is talking with Ross, and he's seeing the aftermath of a battle. Like, there's a city in ruin. There are bullet shells everywhere. There's wreckage everywhere. So he's saying, so Ross says to him, so he's so Ross says to him, we basically need you, to deal with the Hulk, and if you can't stop it, kill it. And so he goes off, and fights the Hulk, and then he encounters and then during his search for the Hulk, he finds Bruce Banner, who is on a rock, who is like on a log, who is sitting on a log crying. And he's asking, and now, remember, this is and remember, this is the first time that that Wolverine and Bruce Banner are meeting. So, like, he has no idea, like, who Bruce Banner is. He has no idea he's the Hulk. He doesn't know any of that. So so when he walks up to him, so when Wolverine walks up to him, he thinks he's just addressing some random stranger. And so he goes so he goes up to him and asks him, you haven't seen a big green monster running around here, have you? And Bruce Banner's like, no, stay back, don't, and then Wolverine, and remember, he's got animal senses, so so he starts smelling him, and then he goes, he starts smelling him, and he goes, and he says to him, he's like, you smell toxic, and and he slams him against, and he slams him against a tree, and and asks him, who are you? And and Bruce Banner is obviously doing his usual, like, please, you're in terrible danger, you don't want to do this, yada yada yada. And then Wolverine, he puts his fist above he puts his fist above Bruce Banner's, above Bruce Banner's throat, and pops his claws. And then at that point, Bruce Banner, obviously, turns into the Hulk. And so he, so right off the bat, they start fighting. And then one funny one quote that I thought was kind of funny, when Wolverine's like, when he's, while he's watching, Banner transform from, while he's watching, Banner, transform, into the Hulk, he goes, he's like, oh hell, and he's like, I don't suppose you got any interest in talking this out, and because Wolverine is, he's about like my height. I'm only, I'm only like 5'5". So, so Wolverine is, like about my height, and the Hulk is, so um so yeah, so they start fighting, and then a couple of minutes into the movie, and then a few minutes into the movie, we get one thing I want to bring up before I get further into the details. There are so many great callbacks from the comics in this movie. As I said before, this is the truest thing that Marvel Animation this is the truest thing to the source material that Marvel Animation has done. And one thing I want to bring up, one of the things that I want to show you guys are one of the things that they recreate in this movie. There's an now obviously diehard comic book fans are obviously going to know what this is. However, again, any non-comic book fans who are watching this, I will obviously explain it. But I want to show you guys something. I want to show you guys a shot that's in the movie. That perfectly references a comic book cover. This scene is in the movie. Hang on. Yeah. This scene here is in the movie. Now, again, non-comic book fans are obviously going to know what this is. Obviously, non-comic book fans are not going to know what this is. So the reason why this scene is in here is because it's a reference to this cover. It's a reference to this cover. You see that? You see what I mean by, this is the truest thing to the comic book that Marvel Animation's ever done. So yeah, so that's why they stuck that in there. That's why they stuck that in there, is because, for fans like myself who can go, like, oh my God, that's, so that's why they do stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, so so Hulk and Wolverine are fighting. So Hulk and Wolverine are fighting, and then all of a sudden the Hulk gets shot and tranquilized. The Hulk gets shot and tranquilized, and falls to the ground, and then we see Wolverine also get tranquilized, and then it turns out that Team Weapon X, Team Weapon X show up out of nowhere. Now, Team Weapon X are Lady Deathstrike, Deadpool, Sabretooth, and Omega Red. Now, Team Weapon X is the program that gave Wolverine Wolverine his claws. He was part of an experiment. He was part of a actually, this is actually a perfect time to bring this up because they literally show it in the movie. after so Weapon X takes Wolverine and the Hulk prisoner, and then we start getting flashbacks of Wolverine's origin. Um, of Wolverine's origin. So we have a shot. Um, so we have a shot of Logan outside a bar. Outside a bar drinking. Drinking a bottle of tequila, I think it is, or some sort of alcohol. Um, and then he um and then he goes to pick up the bottle, and he starts to stumble because even because he's drunk. And then we see two armed men, and the professor who was in charge of the who was in charge of the Weapon X project. Um, Wolverine gets knocked out, and then Wolverine gets knocked out, and then we see him. Um, we see the adamantium procedure. We see him. We literally get a shot of him, like in the tank. Um, in the tank with them doing, the experiments. Um, and this, and remember, this is pre X-Men Wolverine. So, so this was like years and years before he joined the X-Men. Um, I mean, Wolverine is, usually not the nicest guy in the world. I mean, it kind of depends on who's writing him. But before he joined the X-Men, he was a very before he joined the X-Men, he was really a dick. I mean, he was just I mean, he obviously knows the difference between right and wrong. But but he's just, but Wolverine is, is just, is such a tortured soul that, for the most part, he just wants to be left alone. So we get so they start showing flashbacks of his days at Weapon X, and specifically, like what they did to him, and just, like how much he was pushed. Like how like how far he was pushed into becoming, this killing machine. Weapon X was obviously under the impression, that they could that they could control him, and that they could use him, and that they could use him, for their benefit. They were wrong on both accounts, obviously. But yeah, no, we get an awesome shot of of him in the tank. We get another awesome shot of him facing with him in the with him wearing, the Weapon X helmet, with him fighting the bear, with him fighting with him like in the middle of a blizzard fighting, this bear, this giant bear. We get another awesome shot of Wolverine, breaking, finally breaking out of the tank, and just killing everybody in the room. This movie, I gotta say, this movie is probably, even though it's still PG-13, it's very, very gory for PG-13. This very, very much pushes the boundaries for PG-13. You have Wolverine, literally, like cutting people up, and just and just Wolverine, like stabbing people, and just it's brutal. This movie is really, really gory. But yeah, no, like I said before, it's the truest thing to the source material that Marvel that Marvel Animation has ever done. Like, if you're a diehard comic book fan, if you haven't seen this, and if you're a diehard comic book fan, you need to watch this. Seriously. It's only 37 minutes long. It's a pretty short movie. It's shorter than a lot of the other animated movies that Marvel did in the past. But it's such an awesome movie. And Deadpool, Nolan North voices Deadpool in this movie, and he is just he's having a blast. Like, he's just, he's throwing insults out there left and right. Like, like, one of my favorite lines of dialogue in the movie is when one of my favorite lines of dialogue in the movie from Deadpool is when the professor has Wolverine. The professor, of Weapon X, has Wolverine. He's talking with Wolverine. He has him, imprisoned, and the professor goes, "Despite Deadpool's idiocy, Weapon X is indeed pleased to have you back, Logan. We put considerable time and money into you." And then you hear Deadpool's voice in the background, and he goes, "And pointy things." I mean, why, Nolan North, why, I'm sorry, guys, I have to bring this up. When you can make one of your cronies, like your evil crony, like one of your evil own cronies cringe, or like get, like pissed off at you or whatever, you're on a whole new level of like disturbed, and that's obviously what Deadpool is. I mean, he's just, this movie, despite, like how violent it is and how, how brutal it is, Deadpool's humor in this movie, I think, very, very much lightens the mood a little bit, because you literally have Deadpool just, literally like doing his thing, and just in being Deadpool. And another thing I want to bring up is when this movie came out back in, I don't remember, I want to say like mid to late 2000s, somewhere around there. This was when this movie came out, it was the first time that Deadpool had been done animated. So it was the first time, that Deadpool had ever been done in animation. So that, so to so that so there were obviously a lot of that was, that's obviously something that you would want done right in this movie. And in this movie, I mean, this movie could not have done a better job in that regard. But no, literally, I mean, this movie, I literally, like, I cannot recommend this movie enough. If you guys haven't seen this, if you guys haven't seen this, whether you're, a Wolverine fan, a Hulk fan, a Marvel fan, whatever, you guys need to watch this if you haven't, because this, this movie, like I said before, it's the truest thing to the source material that Marvel Animation ever did. And these are obviously, It's the Hulk and Wolverine. These are, these are two legendary characters that I've obviously met many, many, many times. Um, if if you guys haven't seen this, I'm serious. You guys are missing out. You need to go watch it. So anyway, let me know if you've seen it, if you liked it, like, subscribe, and I will talk to you guys later. Peace.